And my hair has dye in it.
So does mine, you're not special. I'm just kidding.
Hey, thanks for joining the Escape With Me book club. Escape with me, Lizzie Sawyer.
And me, Sam Reiner.
Into our most recent read. Come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We're going to be covering it from cover to cover, so remember, there will be spoilers.
Today we are going to California, United States. Published in 2021, Dial A for Auntie promotes itself as a fusion between Weekend at Bernie's and Crazy Rich Asians, and it's completely true. After accidentally killing her blind date, Meddy and her aunties must manage to keep their cover while also making $1 million wedding happen. But mishap after mishap drives them to a breaking point. How are they going to ever find a way out of this one? This is a Sam Twitter pick.
Thanks, Twitter.
I've been keeping an eye out for this one for months now, and I pre-ordered it, and when it came at the end of April, I was super excited, and then I read the book, and now I'm making so many people read the book. I'm pleased.
It's very good.
Is good book. Spoilers, is good book. Buy it, read it, you'll love it. It is an adult book. Maybe don't buy it, read it, love it if you have an aversion to strong language, if you don't like characters that get into the hibbity-dibbity.
If you don't know what hibbity-dibbity is, it means intense love relations.
Or if you hate things like death, because that happens. And then there is a situation where sexual assault is implied to almost happen. So if that's going to be something for you, probably skip it.
Also, a guy gets tased, so I don't know why tasing would be a trigger, but you know.
Yeah, so much stuff happened. I didn't even remember that. So much stuff.
Yeah, that's why they crash, is because he gets tased.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh. This book. When the book gets to such levels where someone getting tased isn't even registering anymore, that's saying something. So judge a book by its cover. That's hard to do because I knew about the book before the cover reveal.
Yeah, I knew about the book before I saw the cover as well, because you told me about the book.
So I guess we should turn it around to judge a cover by its book. I think this is a great cover.
It's a great cover.
It has Meddy, it has her mom and her 3 aunties. The Dial A for Aunties is a callback to Dial M for Murder. And then they have glasses on, and it is just, you know, some crazy stuff is about to go down.
Oh, yeah.
And you know the 5 people that will be in the center of it the entire time. I don't necessarily think you can tell from the cover that it's a romance novel.
You can't. You super can't.
It's not a mystery because you know who did it, but we're kind of in that territory.
It's a romance murder, so it's a murder. Murder.
It's a 90s rom-com.
It's a Murrance.
It's a suspense romance.
It's a soap opera. A lot of the stuff that happened, I wasn't massively surprised because I was like, I bet this is going to happen. And then it did happen. And I was like, cool, I bet this is going to happen. And then it did happen. There's this one poor girl at work that as I was listening to this book, I'd pull her aside and be like, yo, okay, so this happened in the book now. This is what's happening now. This is what's going on. And she'd be like, I hate this. It's making my anxiety hurt. And I'm like, I know, but you have to come along for this ride with me because you've gone too deep with me in this.
It is crazy time. Oh my goodness. It's a very good, cute cover. And the author remade it with her actual mom and her mom's friends. And that was very cute. But yeah, so it's a good cover. I like the cover. I like that it's yellow. I don't think I own any other book that's like straight up yellow, except for a couple of Cat Who's and then the Dessert Murder.
Yeah, the Dessert Murders are yellow.
But beside mystery series that have 80 books in them, I don't have a lot of yellow books. I like the lemon and lime of it. The yellow and green, it was really good. And then the red, I don't know. Whoever designed the cover did a really good job. I like it. But this family, her family feels real. I think she does a really good job of personalizing characters. They all feel real.
Probably based off of real family members.
Could be. I like the cohesion between them, like the relationships. They're very consistent, and they even have their own little arcs through it. And it's not a happy ending where it's like, and everyone gets along now. There is still dynamics at play. It's very realistic. I like it. But you have the big aunt who used to work in, wasn't it like a Ritz-Carlton?
Something like that.
A really, really fancy hotel as the head baking chef, pastry chef, dessert, I don't know terms. And Big Aunt now runs her own bakery. And then you have Second Aunt who has her own salon, which is these business owning ladies. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they went out and they did what they wanted to do.
And then you have Ma.
Third Aunt, yeah.
Third Aunt. Meddy's mom, the main character's mom. She used to work in a supermarket. She's a florist. She has a flower company. Apparently she has a really good lily vendor. who gets it cheap for her. And then you have fourth aunt, who, depending on who tells the story, either gave up a huge career in China as a superstar or left China to come to California to have a career as a superstar. So it depends on who you ask. I'm thinking it's more the second one because it's what the rest of the family says.
It's what the sister that doesn't like her says.
Yeah, but they're really cool. And so Big Aunt and Second Aunt have a rivalry, and then Meddy's mom and Fourth Aunt have a rivalry. And I like how they play out differently in the book. It's not the same rivalry, whereas her mom and Fourth Aunt are very catty back and forth. Big Aunt and Second Aunt are, I don't know, their feud is quieter. It gets louder as time goes on, but it's like Big Aunt is just very disapproval and all that stuff, whereas Second Aunt just makes faces a lot in the beginning and it's just like, dislike. Second Aunt also does Tai Chi a bunch, which I thought was cute. She does Tai Chi for her blood pressure, and her blood pressure keeps rising because this weekend, it's a weekend. This all happened in one weekend. It's bonkers.
I mean, the murder happens the day prior, but most of the events happen all in one day.
It's insane. And then you have Meddy.
Poor kid.
And she's the main character, and she is enmeshed with her family.
And she has no backbone because she's been enmeshed with her family for years, and it's all very strong, independent women that she has to deal with, and so what they say goes, and so she's just kind of a lint noodle.
Yeah, and something happens in it with enmeshment where the child feels like they're betraying their parent for wanting individuality.
Yep.
And so you see that a lot, and then you see the two kind of stereotypical things that happen with enmeshment. Either the child runs away as soon as they can, which is what happened to all of her male cousins, and I guess she's the only female cousin of the group, and she does the opposite, which is continues to be enmeshed with the family forever. And ever, and ever, and ever. So that's kind of the starting point for everybody. And then her mom decides to make her a dating profile, and it all goes downhill from there.
Her mom makes her an online dating profile and then pretends to be her, because that's okay.
And then refuses to show Meddy the conversation. I would have wanted her to see it, to be like, study up. This is what he thinks you know about. I'm honestly surprised they went through the entire conversation and he wasn't like, yeah, I've told you this before, or something. How did they make it through the entire date with her knowing nothing about this person, even though they've been talking for months?
Because her mom gave her the lowdown on all the things that she's supposed to know prior.
Still, like, how do you... I was impressed. That was impressive. They managed that. Because Meddy didn't exactly do a convincing job.
No. Of course, I think he just wanted to bang.
I mean, true, but I feel like at some point he's like, this is weird. This is different.
Yeah, but he just wanted to bang.
But he's dumb. He's dumb. He's really dumb.
And he's also in...
This guy. Oh my gosh, he's so stupid.
He's trash on so many levels.
And apparently this entire time, the mom has been accidentally sexting this dude.
Not the entire time. Just near the end. Just near the end.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
And it was word mess up in translation. He said, you want to meet up? And she said, oh yeah, now is great because yesterday my body tasted very bad, but it is much better now. Because that is what the literal translation from, I believe it was Indonesian into English was for I didn't feel great yesterday. The literal translation is my body does not taste good.
And then it goes downhill from there. I don't remember the exact words, but at some point the eggplant emoji got involved and the mom thought that meant he was going to cook eggplant for her.
Yeah, because he was like, oh, if I known that you were going to be like that, I would have asked to meet up earlier and then sent the eggplant emoji. And she said, oh, you know I love those.
And then at some point she mentioned being wet. And then you said she's thirsty and she's like, yeah, I'm super thirsty.
It's such a mess.
That conversation. That in itself, that conversation is worth the purchase of this book. Oh, it's so bad. And the mom doesn't show it to her until after the date.
Fourth aunt is just cracking up because she knows.
Because out of the four of them, she's apparently the best at English. And so she's like, oh dear, honey. Oh, no, 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 no. But, of course, even if you were sexting someone and then you met up in person and the person says no, then no means no, we're not doing this.
No means no. Remember, y'all, no means no.
Or else you're gonna get... Okay, so when the taser part happened, and she's like, yeah, I carry a taser. And then later on, her big aunt pulls out her taser.
Like, oh, what kind? Can we see it?
One of my first friends in college, she asked during this Q&A session with the people that is like, oh, here are the housing rules and stuff. And she like specifically asked, being on campus, if she could carry around her taser. This was the first day I knew her, but she was awesome. It was just like, I never would have picked that. It's a very funny coincidence. So that was really funny, and that for some reason just sent me through all of my past. I knew when she was like, oh, I can't feel a pulse. And then her hands were too sweaty and she's like, I can't feel a pulse. I'm like, he's not dead.
I thought he was dead. And then they were like, oh, he's not dead. And I was like, oh no.
There were certain things where it felt like she was being intentionally vague. And I was like, he's not dead, is he? And then, that happens. I was like, oh no. This went from manslaughter to murder.
Yeah. It went from self-defense to murder very quickly.
Although, please don't tase someone while they're driving.
Yeah, she probably should have waited until he'd stopped driving, but I can fully understand why she didn't, though.
But she could have gotten them both killed.
Panic, man.
She's not good under pressure.
No.
That is something that is very true in the beginning of the book. She figures it out because everything gets way too crazy, and she's like, well, I have to figure this out. But yeah, she's not good under... Because she's had her mom and her aunties making all of these decisions for her. Like, she doesn't have to make decisions under pressure. So that wasn't a great decision. And then I love it. I love her family comes over and it's like not even a thing.
And they're all fine. And the mom's like, we have to cut them mango and Asian pears. And Meddy's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, yeah, they're coming over so late. We have to feed them.
Where are your manners?
Yeah. Oh, and Meddy has such good manners because she covered the guy's face when she put him in the trunk.
Oh my gosh. And all of the aunties are like commenting on it. And they're like, oh, you're good. That is good. You're such a proper girl. Sister, you have raised such a proper girl. Love that. I just love that. So they accidentally end up killing him because they're like, oh, we'll put him in the freezer overnight and then we'll deal with him after the wedding.
He's in a cooler. He's not even in a freezer. He's just in a little cooler box.
Yeah, they were going to put him in the freezer and then the cake was there and they were like, well, let's put him in the cooler. And then they put him in a cooler and then the next morning the assistant gets there before Big Aunt does. And so she just takes everything.
She's trying to be very helpful and overachieving.
Yeah, it was so sweet. And like Big Aunt is like wanting to be mad but can't be mad at the same time.
She's like, no, you did so good. You're such an overachiever.
I am so proud of you, but in the current situations.
And she keeps trying to help with the cooler and Big Aunt has to be like, no, what you're doing is very important. Keep doing what you're doing.
And I could see that in a movie, because this author has had conversations with Netflix about, I don't remember if it's a movie or a TV show, but I could totally see that in the movie. So that happens. And so to kind of explain where the cooler is going, there's an island and it has a really fancy resort and they have been hired on to do this $1 million wedding because they have a wedding company.
And back in the past, back in college, Meddy had this boyfriend and it was her soulmate and they were dating for 3 years and she never told her family about them, even though she went to go meet his family, and his dream was to run a hotel in California. And of course, my brain was like, well, he's obviously going to be the hotel owner of the resort. And you know what? He is. He's definitely the hotel owner of the resort, which is really funny because the guy that she went on the blind date with and tased and then promptly killed said that he was the owner of the resort, which turns out he's not. He's actually the florist.
He is the lily vendor.
But we'll get to that because he's so wrapped in this plot. It's crazy, even though he's dead.
Honestly,
he's more wrapped in this plot than you would think.
He's stupid. I get if he wants to be rich, but like it's very easily verifiable.
I'm so filthy rich with my several hotels. Be like, look, man, I need you to chill.
He knows that they're doing this wedding. That was so easily verifiable.
That's why he was like, oh, you probably won't see me much because I'll be behind the scenes making sure everything works.
I mean, there was a very high chance that they had had a conversation with the hotel owner by this point. Like, it's happening this week. Anyway, that was a very dumb cover.
It was a very dumb cover.
He should have just said he owns hotels in New York or something. Something far away that you can't verify. But no, he's stupid.
Especially since he knows her mom, and as soon as they're together and they see him, because he has to deliver lilies to the wedding, Meddy's Meddy's gonna be like, oh, it's you. And her mom's gonna be like, oh, it's my Philly guy. And Meddy'd be like, no, what?
So dumb.
He's like, man, I don't know how you ever thought you were gonna get away with this.
I also don't understand why her mom set her up on a blind, even if it worked out, why is she going on a blind date the night before?
Because she has to get married and give her grandbabies.
No, I understand that, but why the night before the big wedding? Like, she should be asleep.
Yeah, I don't know.
She should be preparing for this.
Plot, man.
She doesn't have time to go on blind dates.
Plot.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so the cooler ends up going to the island where this is all happening, and that's a bad thing. And they've tried several times to get the cooler back to the boat to go across.
They're carrying this cooler all over the island. Everybody has seen them with this cooler. They're being really suspicious with this cooler.
Yeah, not great. And then, of course, the awesome boat dude who's like, no, dude, that was... Sir, can I have your name? I know the owner. I would like to talk to him about you.
What is your name? I want to file a complaint about you, specifically.
Everyone else in this hotel is so professional and so good. Like, this is a 5-star hotel that has $1 million weddings. Can you afford to have this dude pissing off caterers that probably are famous? I mean, these aren't specifically.
Well, they are at the end of the book.
But true. Don't tell me that they're not going to have celebrity chefs coming there. They're going to need good vendor relationships, is all I'm saying. But yeah, so they will go everywhere with this stupid cooler. And then it ends up being how Meddy runs into her ex-boyfriend.
Her soulmate. Which she left him because at the end of college, he was like, I have a great job offer in New York and I want you to come with me. And she was like, well, I don't want you to not have the great job offer, but I'm too scared to go with you to New York. And so we're going to break up. Which she never actually told him that. She was just kind of like, now we're done, and then let him leave. And so they both were pining for each other for years, I think 6 years in between then and current day in the book. And so they get back together very quickly until he sees the dead body, which they hide in the bedroom because that's what happens after they carry the cooler around for ages and ages. And he's like, oh, is that your boyfriend? And she's like, and then he leaves.
Which I feel like that's a very, I mean, they had to get him out of the cooler, but they decided to put him, I don't know why they decided to put him on the bed. Rigor mortis have set in by this point.
I mean, it set in after they put him in the cooler.
I know, he shouldn't have stretched out that easily. I don't even know why they took him out of the cooler, period.
To put him in a suit. They took him out of the cooler because the cooler itself was suspicious. So they took him out of the cooler so the cooler wouldn't be in the room and they'd be like, what's in the cooler? So they took him out of the cooler and put food in the cooler so they'd be like, there's food in the cooler. Because they registered that the cooler is now suspicious.
But they take him out before they get the suit and I'm just like, that would smell so bad after a while.
Well, what are you gonna do? You can't leave him in the cooler. The cooler is now suspicious.
Why couldn't they have kept him in the cooler? It's in their room.
Because the cooler is now suspicious. They've been carrying the cooler around. If someone comes and searches their room and they have the cooler and they look in the cooler and they're like, well,
but who's gonna look in it in their room?
Would you leave the body in the cooler if you've been carrying a cooler around and everybody know that you had a cooler and the cooler was suspicious?
If it was in my room and my auntie was still watching it, yes. Fourth Aunt was still in the room.
No, I think it was smart to take him out of the cooler.
They took him out so it can decompose properly and smell terrible. It's great.
They took him out so if anybody decided to search the cooler, there wouldn't be a body in the cooler.
But who is going to search it while it's in their room under lock and key with Fourth Aunt watching?
Anybody that thought they potentially had drugs.
Fourth Aunt was watching the cooler. Anyway, that's beside the point. They took him out before they got the suit. They never actually get the suit. I think they were trying to get employees' clothes.
Big Aunt was trying to get employees' clothes, and Second Aunt was like, I found this suit. We're gonna put him in the suit.
That's right. We're gonna put him in the suit. We're gonna throw him into the ocean. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that didn't happen.
Which, once again, any competent coroner could be like, he didn't drown.
Yo, he suffocated.
But we're gonna ignore that. That plan never actually happened, so we don't have to explain that.
Yeah, they never really think about forensics at all with this.
No.
As much as she says that she watches true crime and stuff like that, she never actually, like, the coroner would be able to forensics due to forensics.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I'm like, keep him in the cooler, because that way he doesn't degenerate, and that way the time of death is still murky. But once again, we're just gonna ignore all of that.
I mean, the time of death is already murky because he's been in the cooler like all night.
Yeah, but if you can make it even murkier. I'm just saying, the longer he doesn't decompose, the better.
I mean, he gets rained on.
Okay, that doesn't happen till the end.
He gets rained on. It's fine.
We're gonna ignore all that because the book ignores all that, so fair. This is a rom-com. We don't need forensic files coming on.
No.
I'm kind of... Okay, so in the beginning I was back and forth about whether I liked the fact that Nathan was just automatically automatically like, I've missed you, I'm ready to get back together. Because in my mind, what would typically happen is she would have to fight a little bit because he doesn't trust her, he's mad at her and anything like that. But I'm kind of glad at the end that they're immediately like, I still want you back, because we could not layer that with everything else. We have too much stuff else to go on to have to worry about their relationship that long.
There's a dead body at play. We can't have the fighting back and forth thing.
And even the little bits of drama that they have, almost immediately forgives, immediately forgets. We're going forward. We want to be together.
There's so much other stuff going on. We don't have time for this.
Forgives her for killing a random dude. No questions asked. He knows before anything happens.
Forgives about the boyfriend. Forgives about all the other random stuff.
And without even hearing the story.
For real.
And without even hearing the story, he's like, nah, it's fine. It's good. Whatever.
She's like, I did it. I killed him. And he's like, I know. And she's like, how do you know? And he's like, it really wasn't that hard to figure out. Super, really not hard to figure out. You're carrying that cooler around for ages.
So I think it kind of works out in the end. We have too much other stuff to actually focus on the romance other than the fact that the romance is happening. All we need is just there, together, romance. Let's go.
So on the list of other stuff that's happening, in the background of dead body and wedding, and suddenly the body's on the island, is that the maid of honor knows the dead body and keeps trying to call the dead body. Oh, and the dead body's name is actually Iguan, and is like, dude, where are you? We have to steal the tea ceremony gifts. By the way, the tea ceremony is where the couple pour tea for their elders, and the elders gift them with money or
presents,
other random presents. And if you're a rich family, they try to outdo each other. So this particular tea ceremony gifts were cars, a house, very expensive jewelry.
And there's 2,000 of them, so it's insane how much stuff they have.
Little bags of gold. It's a lot.
But instead of just letting this happen and be suspicious, they pretend to be him, and she actually steals.
Well, yeah, because if they don't, then Maureen's gonna catch on that he's dead. There is a dead body. We are in panic mode. It makes perfect sense.
They could have texted him as like, I chickened out or something. Like, she could have. Anyway, she goes along with it.
No, panic mode. Absolute panic mode.
Terrible decision maker.
Also, this wedding needed to stop, so.
I mean, we'll get into that. But she figures out that Maureen is trying to steal the tea presents. And so, like I said, instead of being like, I chicken out or you're on your own, she actually goes and steals the present. Even if she was like, okay, we're going to do the thing, and then he doesn't do the thing, like he got caught or something. No, she actually went and stole the present. And it's like, well, crap. What do I do now?
Yep.
Meddy, why are you stealing? Why are you stealing these presents if you get caught? Like, oh goodness, it's not great.
Because we can't let anybody know that there's a dead body. I'm sorry, they have a dead body that she killed.
I still stand by, I chickened out.
You may think of that on the spot, but she killed someone the night before and does not want to be caught.
It hit the part where it's like, oh, I'm stealing the time. I'm like, Meddy, what are you doing? We need to take a moment and assess what is happening.
Trying not to get caught. There is a dead body in her bed.
Oh my goodness. So she steals the presents, and then the maid of honor figures it out.
The maid of honor doesn't figure it out. The maid of honor, they notice the gifts are gone, and they start putting the heat on the maid of honor. They're like, you stole the presents, you're the last one with them. And so the maid of honor is like, the camera girl helped me carry them to the room. I can place the blame on her. And so calls Iguan, which is still just Meddy, and is like, yo, we're gonna blame the camera girl. Go hide the treasures in her room. And so Meddy goes and hides them in the maid of honor's room. Because Nathan has dropped the master key outside the door because he saw the dead body and thought it was her boyfriend. So we can just go wherever now. A lot of people have had a lot of fun with me just ranting the plot of this book at them due to the fact that it is such a mess.
When you read the book, a lot of this makes more sense. But when you start saying some of the stuff out loud...
I mean, everything kind of flows really well, but it's such a mess.
Oh my gosh. Mess in a good way. It's not like, oh, this is a mess of a not... Like, it's just, the situation is a mess. And it makes it wonderful and really sucks you in. But it's such a mess. Ugh. When it says it's Weekend at Bernie's meets Crazy Rich Asians, that was on point. I've never had a piece of marketing so accurate in my life. So that happens, and then there's some weird stuff at this point you don't really understand. There's some weird stuff with the maid of honor where she doesn't actually want to steal them, and it makes it sound like, oh, she was going to give them back, and it's really confusing right there. There's a whole thing with that.
Which clears up later. We'll come back around to that. It makes more sense later.
Well,
no, it makes more sense later.
You find out her reason for it later.
Yes.
I still don't think it makes sense, but I see. Yeah, anyway, we'll look back around to that. So that happens, and then Jacqueline, who's the bride, is upset and is like, you have been banished.
Obviously. And Tom, who's the groom, is like, no, my family gave more gifts, so I should decide what happens to the thief, which is a low blow. That's a really low blow.
Yeah, he's not a great guy. The more you read about him, you're more like, you're a jerk.
He's such a jerk.
I knew, okay, to jump ahead a little bit, I knew from the moment where he's like, I'll sue them if they don't do the thing. I was like, all of his groomsmen are hired.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You don't say that unless you have a contract. There is no way these are his friends.
I definitely figured the same thing out at the same moment. It was very obvious.
I am surprised just because he's really rich though, and so you always have those fake people who are like your friends, quote unquote, when you're rich. So I was a little surprised on that, but yeah, I get it. It works out better for them, the fact that they hired him, so it works out.
I mean, they're also drugged.
Well, we haven't gotten quite, oh yeah, we have gotten there yet. So when all of this is happening with the stolen stuff, we come to find out everybody is running their own play.
With the stolen stuff, they're gonna go check Meddy's room, and so they have to move the body, and so this is where everybody kind of does their own thing with the ants and the body while they're trying to move the body.
No one talks. It's not great. They're not great at communication to begin with, necessarily.
No.
So this just exasperates it. And Big Ant and Second Ant do stuff. But the important thing for the plot going forward is Fourth Ant gives the groomsmen absinthe
and Meddy's mom puts THC in the champagne.
It's not weed, it's Chinese medicals.
It's Chinese medicine.
That was probably my favorite part, where the Fourth Ant was like, that was weed, and she's like, no, I'm not getting high, this is Chinese medicine.
It just makes me a little woozy.
That was really cute.
No, it's weed, sweetheart.
And it's really funny because it's not even like an edible, so she can't be like, oh, they're just like really good blueberries covered in chocolate that make me woozy. Like, no, she just straight up has weed in a form that she can put in booze.
She has liquid THC.
Oh.
Just the active ingredient in weed in a bottle.
That was funny. But yeah, so the groomsmen are now feeling drunk and high. So high, so high.
They're so out of it. Barely on their feet. Somehow make it down the aisle.
It's bad. They were already hungover from the night before. Apparently that was crazy.
Because they're hired, so they want to do a good job for the groom and party hardy.
They can barely sober up for pictures, which they don't. And so they're already pretty train wrecked. And so then they get absinthe and weed. And then somewhere in this point, they put the dead body in groomsmen clothes and put him on the bed. And the groomsmen, in a rush to get ready to go walk down the aisle, grab him.
They've already got him in the suit. They brought him with them in the suit into the groom's room because they were going to put him in the back garden, but then everybody came down the hall to go check Meddy's room for the gifts. And so they went to the groom's room with the absinthe.
And the weed, ready.
Well, they just kind of had it. And that happened, but they just kind of left the body with them because they were like, well, they're stoned out of their gourds. No one will notice.
Alcohol poisoning. You know, it happens.
And one of the guys, what in his stoned mind was like, oh no, one of the others that, because no one actually knows anybody else because they're all hired. One of the others is knocked out in the bed. I'll just grab him and bring him along and it'll be fine.
You know, something that comes up that never comes up again, they never actually talk about it. Meddy gets hurt from the car accident. And from what it made it sound, he was also hurt. Why didn't neither of them have injuries from that?
I mean, she was probably bruised and had a little bit of whiplash.
But he should also have been bruised. That's the one thing, is like, I guess
he died!
He was still alive!
Yeah, but they didn't really look at him that much before they put him in a cooler. They wrapped him up in a rug.
But that is something, so they have no outwardly injuries or bruises or something. And so I think about that sometimes.
Well, I mean, they don't look at him a huge amount.
No, this only comes up for the wedding, is when the groomsmen pick him up and other people see him. And it's like, I guess he has no outwardly injuries.
I mean, he's in a tux. Though, granted, he did have blood running down his face, so in theory, he really should have a cut on his head.
Something, you know?
Something.
And I mean, granted, they could have cleaned him up. There still would have been a... Anyway.
We never talk about that again.
All forensics out of the way.
Forensics is not existent in this book.
That's not what we came here for. We came here for shenanigans.
That's not what we're here for.
But yeah, I did think about that.
Why do you care that they took the body out of the cooler?
I did think about that when they were walking around the aisle. I'm like, the car wreck didn't happen yesterday. Nah. Last night? night. Whiplash? What? The impact was so bad she passed out, but it's fine.
It's fine.
What are concussions?
It's fine. We're not here for forensics.
So he ends up getting down the aisle, and then Meddy's like, oh crap.
Her airbags didn't go off. She was able to drive it home. Her airbags did not go off. They did not hit that tree hard enough to injure the engine or the radiator in any way. She was able to drive on the highway all the way home.
With no problems whatsoever. There are some things.
So in theory, they didn't hit hard enough to have severe injuries, even though it knocked him out long enough for them to think he was well and truly dead.
Yeah, and who knows how long she was knocked out. She doesn't even remember hitting. Anyway, logic be gone. That's not what we're here for. I do think the funniest moment in the book, you kind of get hints at what all four of the ants are doing, just like running around, but it all comes together when Meddy is taking pictures and stuff, and then she sees the dead body coming down the aisle with two groomsmen holding him up. Everything has built to this moment right here.
Oh, are we surprised? Are we really surprised? No.
But I still had this, oh crap. Because this whole time you're thinking, how are they going to get out of this? How are they going to get out of this? But you get here and you're like, there's no way you're leaving here without people knowing there's a dead body. Like,
we're here now.
Things have changed.
They almost made it too. She was like, we need to get them off the stage. They're stoned out their gourd. And Tom's like, no, they're going to do what I say. They're not leaving. And so she calls the wedding planner and is like, yo, we have to get them off the stage, which is on a pool, by the way. They're on water.
Yeah, crazy rich Asians. Let's go.
Yeah, the infinity pool. But anyway, and so the bride comes down and the MC is like, cool, now would the bridal party please leave so that the couple can have the stage all to themselves. And Tom's like, what? No.
And then everything goes to crap from there.
And the bride's like, yes, they're stoned out their gourds. And Tom's like, no, they will not. And so grabs one of the dudes carrying the dead body and everybody starts falling in the water. And so Meddy picks up the dead body and the bride's like, let me help you. And she freaks and pushes the bride in the water and then dives in after the bride to get her out of the water because that's a lot of fabric to get waterlogged.
Yep. I was half surprised that that didn't come up later. Like Jacqueline wasn't like, Meddy, you pushed me into the pool. Because it straight up said she just pushed her into the pool.
I was really surprised that people weren't like, the photographer pushed the bride in the water.
But no, everyone is very forgiving here. Insanely so.
Yeah, apparently.
And so they get the bride out, but then finally one of the bridesmaids is like, oh my gosh, she's actually dead. And they're like, ah. And then insanity.
This one's dead, this one's dead.
And then the sheriff shows up, who is very prejudiced.
The incompetent piece of trash.
He's not great. Can we talk about how the hotel apparently has no security cameras?
Yeah! The entire time they were like, Meddy, did you steal the tea ceremony gifts? I was like, can we not just look at the cameras and see her entering the room? Is there not a camera at the end of every hallway? Because at motels, there's cameras at the end of every hallway. Why?
Yeah, there's so many times where they walk down the hallway.
Because even if you were like, oh, that's just Meddy going into the bridal suite, like she does all the time because she's a photographer, she would come back out with a double bag. Because she would also see the maid of honor setting the deadbolt and not shutting the door all the way. That is something you also should be able to see on a security camera.
Yeah, there are so many times where they did stuff and I'm like, say hi to the security camera. This is a state-of-the-art facility with no security cameras. So two things that broke me. First of all, he brags about how they've been trying to fire him for years.
Yeah, because he's incompetent.
They've been trying to get rid of me for a long time. I'm like, that is not something to brag about.
I personally love that he's like, do you know this guy? No? The hotel manager did it. You have actually Zippo evidence for anything, my guy.
So I'm thinking the guy is set in the ways kind of type, so I'm going to say he's around 50s. I'll put him at 55. But he says that he doesn't believe in the newfangled stuff like DNA. And I'm just like, they've been using DNA since the late 80s. Most of your life, they've been using DNA. This is not newfangled. Most of your life, guy, you were 20 when they started using DNA. I don't understand. This isn't newfangled. It's like meeting someone who's like, I don't believe in fingerprints. What? I can't with this guy.
Oh, come on, Sam. I mean, the world is obviously flat and the lizard people are slowly taking over. Like a good 75% of the population is actually lizard people. You can spot a lizard person by whether or not they like to eat red meat. He's just drunk with power. absolutely drunk with power. But anyway, he arrests Nathan, the hotel manager, and is like, you did it. Has absolutely no evidence, just out of nowhere is like, the hotel manager, he definitely did it. And they leave the body on the pool deck as it starts to storm.
It's about to. And Meddy gets trademark great idea.
This is where she gets a backbone.
And she proves she still sucks at coming up with ideas. She pretends to be a lawyer.
She does well. I mean, the guy is stupid enough that she manages to get away with it.
It's true.
At no point does he stop thinking that she's a lawyer.
It's true, but I will point out, if he was competent, this would have been a horrible idea, because it is illegal to impersonate a lawyer.
Oh, no, it would have been a horrible idea. But he's not that smart.
We're gonna add that to her list of crimes.
She's already gonna be arrested for murdering a guy. What are they gonna do? Put her in jail for longer? Oh, no.
And isn't this the part where she reveals, oh no, somebody else was watching true crime and stuff, but I feel like this is the part where she's like, I've watched a bunch of cop stuff, and I'm like, you should know about decomposing bodies. If you can play a lawyer well enough, you've watched that many crime stuff, you should, oh goodness. But yeah, Nathan gets arrested, and it's stupid, because she even points out, like, she's an amateur at this, obviously. She is not a lawyer whatsoever, doesn't know the laws at all, but she's like, okay, so you haven't ID'd the body. You have no idea when he died. You have no idea how he died. Nathan has no weapons or anything. He doesn't have a motive, and you haven't even preserved the crime scene.
But he's the one that killed him.
Yeah, and so at first he looks like he's scared, and then he's like, nah, they've been trying to fire me for years. I'm not getting fired now.
Because the real cops aren't here. You can't touch me. I don't hear any sirens. It's because those mamby-pambies don't want to come out in the storm. You have no power over me. I'm like, dude, as soon as they get here, though, you are in such deep doo-doo.
But yeah, this is a part where she's like, well, I want alone time with my client. And then she admits to murdering him. And Nathan's like, I know, pretty obvious. You have made horrible efforts to try to hide that. And then once again, we have the romantic of, I'd rather lose my entire dream in this hotel before I let you go down for this. I mean, this is still a romance, guys.
Yeah, he's choosing love over his dream.
I'm a little sad because obviously it's from Meddy's perspective, so we get a lot about how great Nathan is. I do wish we got a little bit more on how great Meddy is, so he'd be like, I am obsessed with you, but oh well, alas.
We have what we have.
Speaking of which, I thought Selena was going to be way more important. I'm actually a little sad about that. We get one text message exchange.
Well, I mean, she also is the reason that they managed to go to London together without Meddy's parents knowing, because she told Meddy's mom that she was going to come to, I forget where, with her for Christmas.
Yeah, but I was half expecting the other photographer to be Selena.
Yeah, me too, but it wasn't.
Like they were the same major and something. And then especially since she texted after the dinner where the mom was like, hey, I've set you up on a blind date. And she's like, well, that's what you get. Like, it sounds like she's still like intimately involved with her, but I was really surprised.
She never comes up again? Yeah.
There was no text exchange where it was like, holy crap, I ran into Nathan.
Yeah. I mean, dead body.
I mean, granted, yes, but holy crap, I ran into Nathan.
Yeah. Dead body, though.
So I was sad Selena wasn't used more.
She's not really thinking about Nathan. She's thinking about the dead bodies on the island.
So this is where we get the final puzzle pieces for a lot of things where you're like, what is happening? So this plot point. Apparently, the maid of honor planned to steal the gifts
to stop the wedding and then was going to give the gifts back.
And I don't understand.
That's because she wanted the wedding to not go, because she loves the bride.
Why would that make the wedding stop?
No, don't overthink it. No, it makes no sense. I don't know why she would think that she'd be able to get away with that and the wedding would just stop and there wouldn't be repercussions. I don't know. Just her and the bride end up together and it's lovely and it's beautiful and we're just going to move on. They love each other and it's beautiful.
And then the whole, I thought you were straight, so I didn't tell you about my love. Well, I only dated boys because I thought you weren't interested in me, and I can't. The lovely moment was squashed.
They have a beautiful wedding and it's great, and we're not going to touch that with a long stick.
Like, they could have been really cute. But Meddy's like, oh, my heart. And I was like, she just committed felony because she was too afraid to tell you, hey, I like you.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad everyone is extremely forgiving and it worked out. Okay.
We're gonna move on.
I do like at the end when they hired the company again for Tom Cruise's second wedding because they needed to make it even bigger than Jacqueline and the maid of honor Honor's wedding because Honor, and I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
That was very cute.
I'm so glad she didn't marry Tom.
Yeah, I was happy she wasn't marrying Tom, but I just got there and I was like, my heart does not sing. But I'm glad you guys are happy. It worked out, clearly. Sometimes the romance gets squished because other things are going on, but
it's fine. Everything's fine. It's all good.
It works out. Honestly, she went out of her way to be like the maid of honor is actually amazing. And so I think it works out.
Okay, the bit with the maid of honor and just flippantly waving guns around.
That was so funny! I love the hostage scene!
And the gun lingo is so bad. They're talking guns and whatnot. They're like, yeah, you push this button and the ammo thingy pops out. And I'm like, the clip? It pops out the bottom of the gun. The clip?
That's what it is. Okay, thank you for reminding me of this. I could have forgiven the larceny. We can get over that. Why did she think it was a good idea to go back with a gun, kidnap all those people, and then be like, Meddy, you have to steal the gifts again?
She's like, I'm not a kidnapper.
Why?
I don't know.
That's where it lost me. And I was like, why is this? I like how Meddy handled it and was like, okay, bride, come with me. I need you to explain some stuff that's clearly happening. I just don't understand why she was so committed to stealing. The wedding's basically off. What at this point?
I don't know. I mean, why steal the gifts? Why can't you just be like, Meddy, go get the bride and bring her here? Because that's what she really wanted, was to talk to Jacqueline again.
That was the thing. I was like, why would Meddy stealing the gifts make her forgive you? Cancel the wedding. But they're in love, so it works out. I couldn't. I can get Nathan forgiving her, whatever. They're clearly soulmates or whatever. It was just, I hope they sought counseling.
They need some. Oh, Meddy also needs some after this fiasco. Jeez.
Okay, yeah, I meant they need couples counseling, but yes, she also needs couple counseling though.
That too, but everybody needs counseling. It's all a mess.
She needs counseling for the enmeshment, which she does get out of. I'm actually very proud of. She gets out of it and she's able to feel strong and be herself. And obviously her aunties and mom weren't trying to do it. I don't think they were willfully trying to harm it. But the problem with enmeshment is it's being so close as family as to completely destroy individuality.
Yep.
So there are not individual members in this. And so it's very harmful. So obviously I don't think her family was trying to do that. They really love and care for her, but it just crossed boundaries and became not helpful. And so at the end, Meddy was able to pull herself out and be like, I need to be my own individual self. I can still love you and we can still be close, but I need to be myself.
She set some boundaries and it was good.
Yes.
And they didn't like it, but it was still good.
She's learning. And I mean, granted, they still see each other every day, which is a lot.
I mean, they live close and they're close. And I mean, it's better than being in the same house.
Yes, that is good for them. And it's like I said, it's not that they're not close. It's not about that. It's not that Meddy didn't want to be close. It's just she needed to have her own autonomy.
Yes, she needs her own space.
And I think it worked out for the best. So I was actually very proud of that. So in the end, the ending scenario is Agwan was a groomsman. He got drunk and high and decided to go in a freezer for some reason.
He was the real person that stole the presents and pretended to be a groomsman because that was a good cover, and then was going to get caught, and so hid the presents in the maid of honor's room. And then while they were looking for the presents, he was hiding with the groomsmen, and when they came down the hall, he freaked and hid in the cooler, which accidentally got locked, and so he suffocated in the cooler. And then one of them found him in the cooler while they were drunk and high and was like, oh no, he's passed out, and so brought him to the wedding floor, and that's how he ended up on the stage.
Which, once again, if we had any security cameras, the sheriff could be like, hey, that's that same cooler you've been carrying around all day. Even if there were just outside security cameras.
Yeah. Why are there no cameras at this resort? There should be. That's a huge liability.
Rich people don't need security. What? Yeah, that's a huge liability. That's a really bad idea.
You have these big burly security guards, but no cameras?
Yeah, that was the other thing. There was some stuff.
All right.
Okay. Also, it wasn't great the entire time. Nathan was showing obvious favoritism toward Meddy. That's not great for business. Anyway, ignoring the fact that any of your clientele has enough money to sue you for everything, we're just gonna ignore that. Everyone is forgiving and loving here, apparently. But yeah, and so the sheriff buys it. And when they say that he could take complete credit for it, and then we have a happy ending, we even get the proposal because it's a 90s rom-com rom-com and you can't end this without a proposal.
Yep, so Nathan proposes.
Out of nowhere. It's great.
There's even a little bamboo steamer box that the ring's in, and it's kind of cute.
It is very cute. The romance is very cute. It can be unnatural at points because you have to shove in the romance in between the insanity. And so it's like, romance has to go here.
Yep. Oh yeah, there's romance in this book.
But honestly, I did not mind. As much as I make fun of it because it is just wedged in there, it's fine. It's actually fine. I enjoyed it. Like I said, at first I was like, this is a weird decision. But when I got to the end, I'm like, this is the perfect decision. We don't have time for romance. We do not have slow builds here. We have murder.
That's all we have time for.
So yeah, they got away with murder and they get married.
And it's beautiful.
What more could you ask for?
And she gets out from her mother's thumb.
Although I don't want to be in her shoes planning a wedding in that family. That sounds terrible. It's bad enough in general, being a bride and all of this stuff put on you, but being related to people in the wedding industry, that just sounds stressful.
Reading this book, there's bits of this book where it made me miss about a year and a half that I had 3 or 4 weddings that I ended up at. I spent a lot of time at weddings within the course of a short period of time.
It made me glad it's done.
Well, you planned one of them.
If I ever have to get married again, I'm eloping. Courthouse, let's go. Screw this. Not worth it.
I mean, if you ever have to get married again, you will have had to help me bury a body.
Either one way or the other. I just, no. Meddy's like, it's awesome in some ways, but in all the other ways, it's terrible. That is true. It is all terrible.
Yep.
I feel like every bride I've spoken to, you get excited. You're like, yeah, I'm going to marry this person. And then the next day, suddenly, pressure. All on the bride. All of it on the bride, not the groom whatsoever. He's barely a participant. What is happening? But it makes for some great pictures.
It does.
And you get married, so it works out. But yeah, courthouse, let's go. I don't think I could handle a wedding with this much tradition and structure.
A lot of the tradition is really cute.
It is.
Like the tradition where the groomsmen come to get the bride and the bridesmaids make them do all sorts of wacky little tests to be able to come in and take the bride to the tea ceremony.
Yeah. Part of me is kind of glad because it's like structured for you so you don't have to make decisions, because I think there's a lot of pressure for a bride to make the right decision out of like 6,000 options and just magically pick the one, which none of them are right. None of them are right.
None of them are wrong either.
Well, that's a problem. Everyone makes it feel like if you don't pick it right, then it's wrong. It's not a fun time.
Why does it need to be right or wrong? It's whatever the bride wants. Well, it should be whatever the bride and groom wants.
It should be. It's very stupid.
So in theory, nothing is ever really right or wrong. It's just the judgments of the people around them.
Yeah, and that's why it's stupid. And see, even Meddy points it out. The bride is the most stressed because it's just ridiculous. It's all this pressure. And so one way it is nice with the tradition of there is a lot of things picked out to do during the day that you don't have to pick, but at the same time, that also feels like pressure to do everything right because there is a traditional way to do it. It's both. Double-edged sword. Having a wedding planner would be necessary. I'm actually a little surprised the wedding planner wasn't more involved. They mentioned a wedding planner once or twice.
She even called the wedding planner like 3 or 4 times.
I feel like the wedding planner should have been more into this.
I mean, she probably was, but they spent a lot of time hiding a body.
True. It was just a little weird when they mentioned it. I was like, oh, for some reason I thought Meddy's family was running most of this.
They mentioned the wedding planner as soon as they got there, and then again somewhere in the middle, and then Meddy actually called the wedding planner to get the groomsmen off the platform.
Yeah, that was a little bit surprising. We never see her very much. Overall, though, this book, that's all I can say. This book is insane. It's a fun time. I enjoyed it. If you like romance or suspense
or murder,
honestly, if you like murder, perfect. Mwah. This is great.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful.
I feel like several times we've read books that have tried to be either a Hallmark romance or just something where it has rom-com energy. This actually does it.
This has rom-com energy. Hardcore.
This has proven the formula can be done in book form. It's great.
All the things that happen are things that you would expect to happen in a rom-com.
Yeah.
I called a lot of the events. I didn't call all of the events. Some of them surprised me, but a lot of them were like, yeah, all right. Cool. Yep. That's where we're going with this. Nice.
Yeah. And I have never read a book that I have needed a movie for. I need a movie for this. I need this. I need to visually see all of this.
It needs to be done well.
Yes, and it needs to be done well. Because that's one thing. Even though this is written in first person present, which was weird to me, but apparently a lot of contemporary novels do that. I don't think if it was done third person via movie, it would lose quite as much. Because I feel like Meddy could talk to herself, and that would suffice suffice for a lot of the things.
I wonder if you could do it the way that Enola Holmes, the movie, it's very good, but she has little asides where everything around her will stop and she'll look at the camera and she'll say whatever thoughts are going through her head. And it works really well for that movie.
I mean, that could be it, but even if it was just like a quick aside, like they're in the middle of talking something and Meddy's like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And then it goes to something else and it's just like crazy the entire. I think it would do so well as a movie. It could be done so well. I can feel it in my bones. I can understand why even before all of this, it actually got sold. Netflix was like, I want this so bad. I mean, it even uses great movies as its marketing. I need this. I'm almost sad that we can't just do a bonus episode on this because I want to see it. I mean, we're going to talk about it, obviously. We can't not.
Actually, it'd be really funny if we did a bonus episode where we sat down and watched the movie together and recorded our reactions to the movie and then just cut that up and had that be the bonus episode.
Just live stream it. It's all good.
Yeah.
I am really excited for this. Like I said, it's such a good book. If you like romance, if you like, I mean, I'm not even a huge romance fan, but the murder kept me going.
Murder.
Murder. So if you like murder, if you like suspense,
You like rom-coms?
if your anxiety will take it, honestly. Honestly, this book is anxiety inducing.
I had to set this down a couple of times, and I know I'm only listening to it, but there were a couple of times where I had to take my earphone out and be like, nope, we're gonna listen to something else for a bit.
There are so many okay, I am actually a relatively noisy reader. There were so many times where I just closed the book and was like, nope. Or like, this is happening. Oh my goodness. And then I would open it up again and keep reading. But still, this book is insane. And the way the first person present works really well to keep just the insanity of it still going. And it all feels like it's happening right before you. So you are watching all of this insanity unfold. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. Every time you think this could not get crazier, it gets crazier. This is a good book. I like it. One question for the author. I guess I already kind of asked it, but mine was, why wasn't Selena the assistant photographer? Why do we have to bring in this new dude? I honestly thought when she was texting Selena after the dinner, and they had mentioned an assistant at some point, and I was like, oh, Selena's gonna be the assistant. And then it was this new guy, and I was like, oh, Selena's not in this book. Not really. I would have liked more Selena. What is with every best friend always being like, you need to get laid? Every romance book, it's always a very uptight girl and the best friend who is sleeping around being like, you need to get laid.
If we were in a romance novel, would you be the one telling me I need to get laid, or would I be the one telling you need to get laid?
Neither. I don't think I've ever been in a situation with my friends where I thought you need to get laid. Married, single, dating someone, whatever. No matter who, have I ever thought you need to get laid.
Nope.
But that happens in all of these books. And the heroine is always like, you're right. I don't know how I would have taken that if someone was like, you need to get laid. What does that mean?
Sam, you need to get laid.
I don't understand. But that is a trope that keeps popping up. And the more I think about it, I'm like, what does that even mean?
I mean, sex is the answer, obviously.
I think it's funny. Mainly because the best friend is the Selena type. We've read this in Real Men Knit. Val, exact same way.
Yes, she was.
You need to get laid. That's your problem. You have been hung up on this one dude for so long. Clearly, you need to find them and get laid. Like, that's all you need to do.
Or not.
I know, because they always say it to women who are clearly want the wedding dress. That's, I guess, the one thing is it's never the ones who are open to one night stands and stuff. It's always ones looking for a wedding dress. It's like, you need to get laid. And clearly by that, the author is meaning, I am going to put the boy perfectly into the path and you two need to get together. I can't be mad. Selena and Val were both great characters. I liked them. I keep being sad that they're not in the books more. We need books about this best friend. I want this trope, but as a main character.
I would love to know more about traditions with Chinese weddings. It's very interesting.
That would be cool. I'd like to know more, I guess, Chinese weddings, but all over China and how they're different. Because we've seen one from, I think they were all from Singapore.
I think it was a mix of Singapore and Indonesia.
Yeah, and so there was a bunch of them. And so I'm wondering if you were like from North China or from Hong Kong, how like it would differ. That would be really cool.
I mean, because there's so many different dialects, so it would be interesting to have a look at the different traditions across China, because China's is very big.
Yes, it has a lot of people, so you know it varies. So for rating for this, I mean, I don't know if I've made it obvious, but I think this is prime 90s rom-com out of 10. Modernized 30 years later is good.
If this were a TV show, I would binge it out of 10.
Do we even need to ask if we're going to read this again?
No.
No, obviously not, guys. We just spent the entire time just talking about how obsessed we are.
We absolutely hate this book. We're never, ever going to read this again. Never, ever.
Hashtag heavy sarcasm. Yes, we're gonna read it again, and we're gonna force so many other people we know to read it.
It's good.
It's good. Highly recommend for anyone who hasn't read it and for some reason wants all the spoilers spoiled for them.
We basically went through the entire plot.
That's why we give the spoiler warnings. You know what you're getting into if you made it this far. But have you read this book? Do you want to see this? Ooh, here's a question. Do you want to see this adapted into a movie or a TV show? I want a movie. I think you want a TV show.
No, I want a movie. I just said TV show for the rating because I like it enough to watch all the episodes all at one time.
Ah, so we're both on team movie.
I don't know if there's enough to do a TV show because it's also fast paced. It would go even faster as a movie.
Unless they added stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, which don't do that.
So we're both team movie. Tell us if you're team movie or team TV show. Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you like the video, hit like, and if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more fun book content.
Thanks for exploring Dial A for Aunties with us.
You can keep up to date with us by checking us out on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. And you can help support our podcast by checking us out on Patreon, where for just $1 a month, you can get access to our bonus episodes, where we look at the movie adaptations to some of your favorite books. This month, we're exploring the childhood classic that is over 100 years old, The Wizard of Oz, and talking about the dark history behind the great movie.
Join us next time as we fly through His Majesty's Dragon, written by Naomi Novik.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I'm Sam Reiner.
I'm Lizzie Sawyer.
And we hope to see you in a frontier next time.